Hey, Kalijah here, coming at you with a preview of my new book. It's called The Naptime Adventures of Luksi the Turtle. I am of Choctaw Indian descent, and in my language, Luksi is the turtle. So I wrote this book of stories that I told to my little grandson. Story number 1, Luksi and the Possum. Luksi lived a strange life. First, he lived in a shell. None of his other friends had a shell, unless they were turtles. He was the only one. All the other animals had furry coats covering their bodies. All the birds had feathers, of course. His fish friends in the pond had scales. Secondly, he was short. The top of his shell was only a few inches from the ground. Most of his friends were taller, all except Pinty the mouse and Cinty the snake. Well, Mr. Bullfrog is pretty short, Luksi thought. All day long, I have to look up to see my friends and talk to them, and by day's end, my neck is sore. The third thing is this. He was born a turtle and will always be a turtle. Turtles walk very slow. I walk so slow, he said, that everyone else has to wait for me to catch up. Luksi was feeling down in the dumps and all alone. He came to a place where several paths crossed. He didn't know which path to take or which way to go. They all looked the same to him. So, while Luksi was trying to decide, along came his friend, Mr. Possum. "What are you doing here?" said Mr. Possum. "Well," Luksi said, "I came here to this place where the paths cross. Now I don't know which way to go or what to do." Mr. Possum said, "Come with me, Luksi. Let's go have some fun together." So off they started on a path that took them to the meadows. It was at the edge of the woods, and a very peaceful place it was, too. Mr. Possum had taught Luksi many things, and now they were very good friends. For some reason, today seemed special, but it wasn't the first time Luksi had felt this way. "Mr. Possum," Luksi said to his friend. "What?" Mr. Possum said. Luksi went on. "Since we are such good friends, I was wondering if we could be best friends forever." Mr. Possum had that grin on his face again, that smile his friend always displayed. "Luksi, that's a wonderful idea," his friend said. So Luksi decided that wherever Mr. Possum was, he would be there if he could. Mr. Possum decided he would be with Luksi if he could. They both felt very happy now. Luksi was a very smart turtle, too. "Listen," he said. Mr. Possum listened. "Do you hear that bird there in the tree? You can tell it's a dove because of its sound," Luksi said. "A dove has a soft cooing sound. I know the sounds of many birds," he told his friend. Mr. Possum had not paid much attention to bird sounds before. Suddenly, a loud tap, 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 tap interrupted the quietness of the forest. "What's that?" asked Mr. Possum. Luksi laughed, and he said he thought everyone knew what a woodpecker sounded like. In a moment, another possum came walking along. It was a mother possum, and she was a sight for sore eyes, Luksi thought to himself. All over her body, little baby possums were clinging to their mother and hanging on for dear life. Mr. Possum said, "Luksi, that's the way we possums carry our babies from place to place when they're too young to walk." Luksi could not imagine how he and his brothers and sisters could hang on to his mother that way. "I guess that's a good reason for a possum's hair to be so long," he said. "Perhaps it is," replied Mr. Possum. All day long they played together and told each other adventure stories. They lay down in the meadow and looked up at the sky. Some pretty clouds are going by. Luksi said, "I can tell which way the wind is blowing by watching the clouds." The possum said, "I never thought of that, and it could be very useful if a storm is coming." Luksi agreed with that. Mr. Possum turned to his friend the turtle and said, "Luksi, do you sometimes just lie here looking up into the sky and wonder why you're on this earth?" Luksi replied, "Sure, I do it all the time." He went on saying, "I know I'm just a turtle, and not a very big one at that. But I figure if I'm nice to everyone and bring them some happiness along the way, then I've done a good thing." After hearing that, Mr. Possum couldn't be more proud that he was best friends with Luksi. So there you go, folks. There's the first preview of a chapter from one of my books. So check the comments down at the bottom here and write something there, and I'll certainly read them. And go to my website, and soon there will be 2 CDs available there for audio, and some of you can pop into the car or into the player at home and let the little ones listen to some stories. And over in Choctaw land, we say Chapinsa la Chaki. That means I'll see you soon.